Welcome, nature detectives. I'm Conrad Baker. I'm an outdoor educator for the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation at Letchworth State Park, and today I have a nature mystery for you. We're now in the final days of August, which means that a lot of the wildflowers that we were enjoying over the summer have already come and gone. But some wildflowers are just getting started. I found one that just bloomed a couple days ago. We can use our nature tools to figure out what kind of plant it is and how it helps us every single day. We'll use two nature tools to do that, our eyes and our fingers. Let's take a look right here. Now, the first thing we have to talk about with this plant, of course, is its color. This is a bright, shining, loud yellow. Reminds me of a school bus or a banana. I could see this flower from way across the meadow. I knew this thing was blooming because it's so bright yellow, stands out from all the other plants around me. While we're looking at those flowers, we might notice our second nature clue. We can gently rub our fingers along these flowers, and we can feel that although they're very soft, each one has a little bump underneath it. These are each individual mini flowers. Each individual mini flower is that bright yellow color. They're all lined up in a row, I can feel, like ducks on a pond or like pearls on a pearl necklace. The third nature clue that we can use to figure out what kind of plant this is its height. This plant absolutely towers over most of the other plants in this meadow. If we were a little dandelion plant or a little clover plant, this guy would absolutely tower over our heads. It's really, really tall compared to the other plants in the meadow. It almost makes a forest of wildflowers where these are like trees standing over the others. So let's put all those nature clues together. We have a really tall flower that's made up of tiny little mini flowers. And each little mini flower is bright, happy yellow. This must be goldenrod. Goldenrod is a late summer favorite for a lot of gardeners out there. Sometimes people will put goldenrod in their gardens on purpose because it blooms so late when a lot of other flowers aren't really blooming, and because it has that happy yellow color. That happy yellow color happens to be very attractive to many different kinds of insects. Tons of insects are really interested in drinking the nutritious sweet nectar from each one of these flowers. And of course, while they're doing that, going inside each flower and getting the nectar, they're getting covered in the goldenrod's pollen, little golden dust that gets all over the insects. And as insects go from goldenrod flower to goldenrod flower, they're helping those goldenrod flowers to make seeds to bring up the next year's crop of goldenrod. Those same insects, the bees, the beetles, the ants, the flies, the wasps, the butterflies and moths, all are pollinators that sometimes help us to make our food. A lot of our groceries come from plants that are pollinated by all those kinds of insects. But the goldenrod is helpful to insects in more ways than one. Many kinds of insects will lay their eggs inside the stem of a goldenrod plant. Have you ever seen a goldenrod plant with all its leaves all bunched together for some reason in a little cluster? Or maybe a ball growing partway down the stem, just floating there? Really interesting. Those are the houses of tiny little baby flies and wasps that are living inside those structures, eating the walls of them like a little gingerbread house, staying nice and warm for the entire winter until they can hatch out in the spring as adults and fly off and find more goldenrod flowers to lay eggs in. Those kinds of insects, plus all of the pollinators, are important food for some of our favorite garden predators, praying mantises and dragonflies, but also lots of birds that we enjoy watching in our backyards and gardens. And sometimes when we're around goldenrod, some people think that they get bad allergies from it. It can get kind of a rough reputation for causing bad allergies. But remember, goldenrod pollen is carried by insects from flower to flower. It doesn't drift on the wind. So unless you're snorting insects in your nose, it's probably not goldenrod pollen that's giving you bad allergies. It's probably ragweed, which is a totally different kind of plant. It just happens to also bloom at this time of year, and it has a green flower that is pollinated by wind. Now that makes more sense, that the pollen from ragweed would be floating around in the wind and getting up people's noses, causing those allergies. So goldenrod is totally harmless to us, and it benefits us in many different ways by gathering those pollinators, especially late in the year. If you really want to put your nature detective skills to the test, look for pollinators on goldenrod. In the next few weeks, everywhere is going to be completely exploding with goldenrod. The sides of sidewalks and roadways and parks are going to be absolutely covered with goldenrod flowers. Look for those really bright flowers all lined up in a tiny little row on these little strings of flowers, like little ducklings, and then watch them to see little pollinators coming to get the nectar. You'll see maybe some flies or ants or beetles or butterflies and moths. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw all of them in a single day. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Nature Mystery. If you have any questions about goldenrod or other wildflowers that might be blooming this time of year, please put a comment in the comment section below the video. Share this video with your friends to put their nature detective skills to the test. And as always, like Letchworth State Park's Facebook page to stay tuned for more nature mysteries.